October 28th, 2019 was supposed to be just another autumn evening for 21-year-old Marcus Chen, a junior at Columbia University majoring in urban planning. The crisp Manhattan air carried the scent of fallen leaves as thousands of New Yorkers made their way through Central Park, some heading home from work, others enjoying the golden hour that photographers cherish. For Marcus, this evening represented something more significant. It was the culmination of weeks spent researching historical landmarks within the park for his senior thesis on urban green space evolution in major metropolitan areas. Marcus had grown up in Flushing, Queens, the son of immigrants from Taiwan who had built a successful small business importing specialty electronics. His parents, David and Lily Chen, had worked tirelessly to provide their only child with opportunities they never had. Marcus embodied their hopes and dreams. He was a Dean's List student, fluent in 3 languages, and passionate about creating sustainable urban environments that could serve diverse communities like the one where he was raised. His professors at Columbia's Graduate School of Architecture, Planning, and Preservation described him as exceptionally dedicated, someone who approached every project with meticulous research and genuine enthusiasm for improving city life. The young man's fascination with Central Park had begun during his freshman year, when he took an urban history course that explored how Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux had designed the park as a democratic space where all social classes could enjoy nature together. Marcus had spent countless hours walking through the park's 843 acres, photographing everything from the Bethesda Fountain to hidden groves that most visitors never discovered. His Instagram account was filled with artistic shots of the park at different times of day and seasons, each accompanied by thoughtful captions about urban design principles and the importance of public spaces in modern cities. For his thesis project, Marcus had been documenting the evolution of specific areas within Central Park, comparing current conditions to historical photographs and architectural plans dating back to the 1800s. He had received special permission from the Central Park Conservancy to access certain restricted areas for his research, and his faculty advisor, Professor Elizabeth Hartwell, later told investigators that Marcus had been making exceptional progress on what promised to be groundbreaking research about how urban parks adapt to changing demographic and environmental pressures over time. On that October evening, Marcus had planned to photograph and document the North Woods area of Central Park, a 100-acre section that represents one of the park's most naturalistic landscapes. This area, located in the northern portion of the park between 101st and 110th Streets, contains some of Central Park's most secluded and heavily wooded sections. Unlike the more manicured southern areas of the park with their wide lawns and prominent monuments, the North Woods feels almost like a wilderness area, with dense tree coverage, rocky outcroppings, and winding paths that can be confusing even for experienced park visitors. Marcus had informed his roommate, Alex Rodriguez, a fellow Columbia student studying journalism, that he planned to spend the evening in the North Woods area conducting research and taking photographs. According to Alex, Marcus had seemed excited about this particular research session because he had discovered some historical documents suggesting that portions of the North Woods contained remnants of pre-park structures that most people didn't know existed. Marcus had shown Alex photocopied documents from the New York Historical Society that referenced old foundations and stone walls hidden within what was now heavily forested parkland. The last confirmed sighting of Marcus was at approximately 6:15 in the evening, when he checked in with a Central Park Conservancy security guard near the Harlem Mere, a large artificial lake in the northeastern section of the park. Security guard Robert Williams, who had worked for the Conservancy for 12 years, remembered Marcus because the young man had shown his research permit and had asked specific questions about accessing some of the more remote trails in the North Woods. Williams later told investigators that Marcus had appeared well prepared for his research expedition, carrying a professional camera, a sturdy backpack, and what appeared to be historical documents or maps. If you enjoy real mysteries like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any cases. What happened next would launch one of the most extensive missing person investigations in Central Park's modern history. When Marcus failed to return to his dormitory by 11 o'clock that evening, his roommate Alex initially wasn't concerned. Marcus was known for losing track of time when absorbed in his research, and Alex assumed his friend had simply stayed out later than planned or had perhaps met up with other students. However, when Marcus didn't return by morning and failed to attend his 10 o'clock urban economics seminar, a class he had never missed, Alex knew something was seriously wrong. Alex Rodriguez immediately contacted Columbia University's campus security, who in turn notified the New York Police Department. The initial response was coordinated between the NYPD's Central Park Precinct and the Central Park Conservancy's security force. Detective Sarah Martinez, a 15-year veteran of the NYPD with extensive experience in missing person cases, was assigned as the lead investigator. Martinez later described the case as immediately concerning because Central Park, despite its vast size, is surrounded by one of the most densely populated urban areas in the world, making it extremely unusual for someone to simply vanish without a trace. The initial search operation began at dawn on October 29th and involved over 40 personnel from multiple agencies. Teams included NYPD officers, Central Park Conservancy rangers, emergency medical technicians, and volunteer search specialists from the New York Search and Rescue Organization. The search focused initially on the Northwoods area where Marcus had planned to conduct his research, but quickly expanded to cover the entire northern section of Central Park as the hours passed without any sign of the missing student. The first significant discovery came when search teams located Marcus's backpack approximately 300 yards from the main Northwoods Trail, partially hidden beneath fallen leaves near a small stream that runs through the ravine area. The backpack contained Marcus's camera, his research notes, his wallet with identification and credit cards, and the historical documents he had been studying. Notably absent were Marcus's cell phone and the specialized GPS device he typically carried during his solo research expeditions in unfamiliar areas. Detective Martinez found several puzzling aspects to the backpack discovery. The bag showed no signs of damage or struggle, and its contents were neatly organized exactly as one would expect from someone as methodical as Marcus. However, the location where it was found was approximately half a mile from any established trail, in an area that would require deliberate off-trail navigation to reach. This suggested either that Marcus had intentionally ventured into unmarked terrain for his research, or that something had occurred that caused him to deviate significantly from his planned route. The investigation took on increased urgency when analysis of Marcus's camera revealed that his final photographs had been taken at approximately 7:45 in the evening, showing detailed images of what appeared to be old stone foundations, partially buried beneath decades of accumulated soil and vegetation. These photographs depicted structures that didn't appear on any official Central Park maps or historical documents that investigators could locate. The images showed carefully constructed stone walls and what might have been the remnants of a small building or shelter, all heavily overgrown and hidden within the dense forest of the North Woods. Professor Elizabeth Hartwell, Marcus's thesis advisor, provided crucial context for understanding these final photographs. According to Hartwell, Marcus had been researching the pre-park history of the land that became Central Park, including the communities that were displaced when the park was created in the 1850s and 60s. The area that became Central Park had once been home to several small communities, including Seneca Village, one of the first significant settlements of African American property owners in Manhattan. Marcus had theorized that remnants of these displaced communities might still exist within the park's borders, hidden by more than a century and a half of natural growth and landscape modifications. The discovery of these mysterious stone structures in Marcus's final photographs prompted historians and archaeologists to join the investigation. Dr. Robert Chen, no relation to Marcus, from the New York Historical Society, confirmed that the structures visible in the photographs appeared to be authentic 19th century construction, possibly predating the park's creation. However, their location didn't correspond to any known historical sites, suggesting they might represent previously undocumented remnants of the area's pre-park inhabitants. As days turned into weeks without any trace of Marcus himself, the investigation expanded beyond the immediate search for a missing person to encompass a broader examination of the area where his final photographs had been taken. Archaeological teams received permission to conduct limited excavations in the vicinity of the stone structures, hoping to uncover any evidence that might explain what had happened to the missing student. These excavations revealed that the stone foundations were indeed part of a larger complex of buildings that had been systematically buried or concealed, possibly during the park's construction in the mid-1800s. The archaeological investigation uncovered fascinating historical details about the pre-park landscape, but provided no immediate clues about Marcus's disappearance. The buried structures appeared to have been part of a small settlement that included residential buildings, possibly a workshop or mill, and what might have been a community gathering space. Historical records suggested this could have been an extension of Seneca Village or perhaps an entirely separate community that had been overlooked by previous historical research. Meanwhile, The search for Marcus continued with increasing desperation from his family and friends. David and Lily Chen had taken leave from their business to be in Manhattan during the search efforts, staying in a hotel near Columbia University so they could be immediately available if any news emerged. The emotional toll on the family was immense, particularly given their unfamiliarity with navigating American law enforcement and emergency response systems. Marcus's disappearance represented not only the potential loss of their beloved son, but also the destruction of dreams and aspirations that had motivated their immigration to America decades earlier. The Columbia University community rallied around the search efforts, with hundreds of students and faculty members volunteering to distribute flyers, conduct their own searches of the park, and maintain a social media campaign to keep public attention focused on finding Marcus. His professors organized a symposium on urban planning that was dedicated to Marcus and his research, hoping to generate additional media coverage that might lead to new information about his whereabouts. As autumn turned to winter, the active search efforts were scaled back, though the investigation remained open and active. Detective Martinez continued to follow up on tips and leads, many of which proved to be false sightings or well-intentioned but inaccurate information from park visitors who thought they might have seen Marcus. The detective also worked closely with the Central Park Conservancy to analyze years of security camera footage from around the park, looking for any evidence of what might have happened on that October evening. The case garnered significant media attention throughout New York City and beyond, partly because of the unusual circumstances, and partly because it highlighted broader questions about safety in urban parks. Central Park, despite being located in the heart of Manhattan, contains numerous secluded areas where someone could potentially encounter difficulties without being easily discovered. The park's 843 acres include dense forests, rocky outcroppings, water features, and countless hidden spaces that most visitors never see. One aspect of the investigation that proved particularly challenging was the timeline of Marcus's final evening in the park. While his last confirmed sighting was at 6:15 near the Harlem Meer, his final photographs were time-stamped at 7:45, meaning he had spent over an hour navigating to the remote location where the stone structures were discovered. The terrain between these 2 points is difficult to traverse, especially in diminishing daylight, and would have required considerable skill and determination to navigate safely. Digital forensics experts analyzed Marcus's electronic devices and online activity leading up to his disappearance, looking for any clues about his intentions or any communications that might explain what happened. His laptop computer and tablet contained extensive research files related to his thesis project, including detailed maps of Central Park with handwritten notations marking areas of particular historical interest. Some of these notations corresponded to areas that had been searched during the initial investigation, but others marked locations that were even more remote and challenging to access. The investigation also revealed that Marcus had been in contact with several amateur historians and urban explorers through online forums dedicated to uncovering hidden aspects of New York City's history. These communications showed that Marcus had been planning increasingly ambitious research expeditions and had expressed particular interest in accessing areas of Central Park that were officially off-limits to the public. While none of these communications suggested anything dangerous or illegal, they did indicate that Marcus had been pushing the boundaries of his permitted research activities. Throughout 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic significantly impacted the ongoing investigation. Reduced staffing at various city agencies, limitations on group activities like organized searches, and restricted access to certain areas of the park all contributed to a slowdown in active investigative efforts. However, Detective Martinez maintained regular contact with the Chen family and continued to follow up on any leads that emerged during this period. The case took an unexpected turn in early 2021, when construction work for a new park infrastructure project uncovered additional stone structures in an area approximately 1 mile from where Marcus's backpack had been found. These discoveries prompted renewed archaeological interest and led to more systematic documentation of previously unknown historical sites within Central Park. While fascinating from a historical perspective, these discoveries also raised troubling questions about how many hidden and potentially dangerous areas might exist within the park's boundaries. Dr. Robert Chen from the New York Historical Society became increasingly involved in the investigation as the archaeological discoveries accumulated. His research suggested that the area of Central Park where Marcus had been conducting his final research contained a much more complex pre-park landscape than had been previously understood. The stone structures that Marcus had photographed appeared to be connected to a network of buildings and pathways that had been systematically concealed during the park's construction, possibly to erase evidence of the communities that had been displaced. This historical context provided a new framework for understanding Marcus's research and his final evening in the park. Rather than simply documenting isolated remnants of old buildings, Marcus appeared to have been uncovering evidence of a deliberate effort to hide the true history of the area's former inhabitants. His thesis research had evolved from an academic exercise into something approaching investigative journalism, potentially exposing aspects of Central Park's creation that powerful interests might have preferred to keep buried. The revelation that Marcus might have been investigating politically sensitive historical issues prompted Detective Martinez to expand her inquiry beyond the conventional missing person investigation. She began examining whether Marcus's research might have attracted unwanted attention from individuals or organizations with interests in controlling historical narratives about Central Park and urban development in Manhattan. However, this line of investigation proved difficult to pursue due to the passage of time and the academic nature of Marcus's work. As the second anniversary of Marcus's disappearance approached in October 2021, his family organized a memorial service at Columbia University and renewed their efforts to keep public attention focused on the unsolved case. The service was attended by hundreds of people, including city officials, university administrators, and members of the Central Park Conservancy. The event generated fresh media coverage and prompted several new tips to be submitted to the police, though none provided breakthrough information. The Chen family also established a scholarship fund at Columbia University for students conducting research on urban planning and social justice issues, ensuring that Marcus's academic interests would continue to benefit future students, even if he was never found. This scholarship program became a way for the family to channel their grief into positive action while maintaining hope that their son might someday be located. Throughout 2022 and 2023, the investigation continued at a reduced level of activity, with Detective Martinez following up on periodic tips and maintaining contact with the Chen family. The case had officially become a cold case, though it remained open and active in the NYPD database. Advances in technology, particularly in DNA analysis and digital forensics, offered hope that new evidence might eventually emerge that could provide answers about what happened to Marcus. The breakthrough that would finally solve the case came in March 2024, nearly 5 years after Marcus's disappearance, when Central Park groundskeeper Antonio Vasquez was conducting routine maintenance work in a remote section of the ravine area. Vasquez, who had worked for the Central Park Conservancy for over 20 years, was clearing accumulated debris from a seasonal drainage area when he discovered what appeared to be human remains partially buried beneath layers of leaves, soil, and vegetation. Vasquez immediately contacted park security, who notified the NYPD and the medical examiner's office. The location where the remains were discovered was approximately 800 yards from where Marcus's backpack had been found, in an area that had been searched multiple times during the initial investigation, but where the remains had apparently been concealed by natural processes over the intervening years. The recovery operation required careful coordination between law enforcement, the medical examiner's office, and archaeological specialists due to the sensitive nature of the discovery and its proximity to the historically significant stone structures that Marcus had been researching. The remains were carefully excavated and transported for forensic analysis, while the surrounding area was thoroughly searched for any additional evidence that might explain what had happened. Forensic analysis confirmed that the remains belonged to Marcus Chen, identified through dental records and DNA comparison with samples provided by his parents. The medical examiner's preliminary findings suggested that Marcus had died from injuries consistent with a fall, possibly from one of the rocky outcroppings in the area. However, the exact circumstances of his death and how his remains came to be buried in the location where they were discovered remained unclear. Further forensic investigation revealed that Marcus had been wearing the same clothing described by his roommate on the evening of his disappearance, and that his body had been naturally mummified by the specific soil and environmental conditions in the area where he was found. This preservation had allowed forensic specialists to conduct more detailed analysis than would typically be possible after such an extended period. The discovery of Marcus's remains also led to the recovery of his missing cell phone and GPS device, which were found buried nearby. While the devices had suffered significant damage from years of exposure to moisture and soil conditions, digital forensic specialists were able to recover some data that provided crucial insights into Marcus's final hours. The recovered data revealed that Marcus had used his GPS device to navigate to increasingly remote areas of the North Woods, following coordinates that he had apparently calculated based on his historical research. His final GPS waypoint was recorded at 8:23 in the evening on October 28, 2019, at a location very near where his remains were eventually discovered. This timeline suggested that Marcus had continued his research expedition for nearly 45 minutes after taking his final photographs. Text messages recovered from Marcus's phone indicated that he had been in communication with someone during his final evening in the park, though the contact information was encrypted and the message content was partially corrupted. Digital forensics specialists worked for weeks to reconstruct these communications, eventually determining that Marcus had been corresponding with Dr. Eleanor Webb, a retired archaeologist who had conducted unofficial research on Central Park's hidden historical sites for decades. Dr. Webb, who was 73 years old and living in a retirement community in Westchester County, was interviewed extensively by investigators. She revealed that she had been providing Marcus with detailed information about the location of buried structures within Central Park, including precise coordinates and historical context that wasn't available in any published sources. According to Webb, Marcus had become increasingly excited about the potential significance of his discoveries and had been planning to expose what he believed was a systematic effort to conceal important aspects of the park's history. The final pieces of the puzzle came together when investigators examined the specific location where Marcus's remains were discovered. The area contained a partially collapsed underground chamber that appeared to be part of the same complex of pre-park structures that Marcus had been documenting. Structural engineers determined that the chamber had been undermined by decades of water erosion and had likely collapsed suddenly, possibly while Marcus was exploring or photographing the interior. The collapse would have trapped Marcus in a space that was completely hidden from view and virtually impossible to discover without precise knowledge of its location. The chamber's entrance had been concealed by the collapse itself, creating what amounted to an underground tomb that remained hidden until natural erosion processes finally exposed enough of the remains to be discovered by the groundskeeper. Dr. Webb's testimony provided the final confirmation of what had happened. According to her account, Marcus had been attempting to document the interior of the underground chamber as part of his thesis research when the structural collapse occurred. Webb had warned Marcus about potential dangers associated with exploring these hidden structures, but had also provided him with detailed information about their locations because she believed their historical significance justified the risks involved. The medical examiner's final report concluded that Marcus had died from traumatic injuries sustained during the structural collapse and that his death had been instantaneous. The report also noted that Marcus's body had been naturally preserved by the unique environmental conditions within the collapsed chamber, which had protected it from scavengers and significantly slowed decomposition processes. The discovery and identification of Marcus's remains brought a mixture of relief and renewed grief to his family. After nearly 5 years of uncertainty, David and Lily Chen finally had answers about what had happened to their son and could begin the process of laying him to rest. The family held a memorial service that celebrated Marcus's life and his dedication to uncovering hidden aspects of urban history, even though that passion had ultimately led to his tragic death. The case prompted significant changes in how the Central Park Conservancy manages access to sensitive historical sites within the park. New protocols were established for researchers seeking to access potentially dangerous areas, including mandatory safety training, required safety equipment, and supervised access to underground or structurally questionable sites. The Conservancy also launched a comprehensive survey of known historical sites within the park to identify and secure areas that might pose similar risks to future visitors. Marcus's thesis research, though incomplete, was published posthumously by Columbia University Press as part of a larger academic work on hidden urban history. His documentation of the stone structures and underground chambers contributed to a broader understanding of Central Park's complex prehistory and the communities that were displaced during its creation. The work has become an important resource for historians and urban planners studying the social costs of major urban development projects. The scholarship fund established by the Chen family has provided support for dozens of students conducting research on urban planning and social justice issues. Many of these scholarship recipients have continued Marcus's work in different ways, documenting hidden histories and advocating for more inclusive approaches to urban development that acknowledge the experiences of displaced communities. Dr. Eleanor Webb worked with the Central Park Conservancy and Columbia University to create a comprehensive database of known historical sites within the park, ensuring that future researchers would have access to accurate information about potential dangers and proper safety protocols. This database has become a model for similar efforts in other urban parks around the country. The story of Marcus Chen's disappearance and the eventual discovery of his fate serves as both a tragedy and a testament to the power of historical research to uncover important truths about our urban environments. His dedication to understanding the hidden history of Central Park ultimately cost him his life, but his work continues to influence how we think about the social and cultural costs of urban development. The case also highlights the ongoing importance of safety protocols in historical and archaeological research, particularly in urban environments where hidden dangers may lurk beneath the surface of familiar landscapes. Detective Martinez, who remained involved in the case throughout its 5-year duration, has spoken frequently about the importance of never giving up hope in missing person investigations. Marcus's case demonstrated that even in one of the world's most densely populated urban areas, people can disappear completely. But it also showed that persistence and advances in forensic technology can eventually provide answers even in the most challenging circumstances. The Central Park where visitors walk today contains the same hidden complexities that fascinated Marcus Chen, but his story has helped ensure that future researchers will be better prepared to explore these mysteries safely. His legacy lives on not only through the scholarship fund and academic publications, but through the improved safety protocols that protect other young researchers who share his passion for uncovering the hidden histories that lie beneath our feet in America's urban parks.